Hey everybody, welcome back to the Complete Game, episode 96. I'm your host, Curt Schilling, and Walk Suck. He's your co-host, Garrick Schilling. What's up, G?
Not much. We are not. This will be our second to last show before the World Baseball Classic. We're 9 days
Yes.
away from the WBC and 23 days away from opening day. So
Yep.
starting to get the ball rolling.
Yep. Yep. What's news today? Well,
Well,
first off,
yeah,
let's first off want to recognize the passing of an all-time great Hall of Famer, a man who I people from that generation argue, and I would probably agree. He hit the most famous home run in the history of baseball, which in 1960 to beat the Yankees. Second baseman Bill Mazeroski passed away this week from my beloved Pirates, and one of the guys who a lot of people look at his numbers and question the Hall of Fame thing, but he apparently was Roberto Alomar before Roberto Alomar at second base. He was a generational defensive player, but will be remembered for one swing of the bat, and that was a walk-off World Series homer to beat the New York Yankees. So condolences to the Pirate family, to the Mazeroski family on the passing of another legend. So
10-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ. So hard
yeah,
to argue those credentials.
yeah. So news today, Sale re-ups with the Braves for 27 million for a year. That was the only thing I really saw that jumped out at me. What would we have the other day?
Pablo
What was
Lopez
it?
for the Twins is
Pablo
undergoing Tommy
Lopez,
John.
who was I think was cranking it up for WBC, is done for the year with Tommy John. Um,
Scooble
and
announced he's only going to pitch in one game during the
yeah, and
WBC during pool play.
it's one of the qualifying games apparently.
Yeah, the pool play. Interesting because going back to our conversation last week, looking at he is just on the threshold of that risk group that starts to be
Yeah,
of the more
yeah,
likely you'll be injured. 29. He's
yeah,
29 years old. It was the 29 to 32-year-old age group that
yeah.
you started to really see diminishing returns from those guys getting ramped up early. But
I got
yeah,
some
that was
heat
some.
on social media the other day. Yesterday, I think it was. Bubba Chandler pitched a game for Pittsburgh, got no outs, walked four, gave up 4 runs, and I commented that when you're a max effort guy, you can take he could take the same stuff he had yesterday 5 days from now and throw 4 no-hit innings. It's hard, if not impossible, to be consistent. Pirate fans were people who know one millionth of what I know about pitching were relax this and relax that. It's like there are certain outings that players have that are just telltale. You don't go out and get nobody out and walk 4 guys. I don't care who you are. If you have, and he's young, and it's not. I mean, this is by no means a career ender, and he's probably will have a good year, but that's just a sign he's not ready. And with everything the Pirates did, I think they're going to push him. Because, well, I mean, and then you have Connor Griffin today hitting 2 bombs against the Red Sox, number one prospect in the game. So there's going to be some anxiety in the Steel City for them to compete and contend this year, and I hope they do. But it's going to be, I think, I don't want to see them do it at the cost of getting young players up there that aren't ready. So.
You're essentially rolling the dice when you roll a guy like that out, with just
Well, you
raw
always
max
rolling the
effort.
dice with a young guy, but one of the things you want to make sure when a young guy gets to the big leagues is he has all the off the field stuff as much as he can have to be able to handle the roller coaster, because it's going to be a roller coaster. I
And it's
mean,
a
Paul
long one.
Skeens is 1 in a million, and Bubba Chandler has a big arm, huge arm, top of the rotation arm, but he's not even close to ready. And there's so much polish left for this kid, but I mean, there's no indication the way the game's being played now that they're going to give him time in the minor leagues to continue to, what do they marinate and learn the little things and the intricate things. And it's one of those things where I see that and I get a tight stomach because I want to jump in and say, listen, I feel like those are the kind of guys give me 30 days and I could turn them into something special. They already are something special, but there's a whole nother level to get to. with guys like that. And
Well, it's just the
you know,
experience you've had at varying times in your career, being the one and the two, both young and old, just understanding what's going to be asked of this guy over. You said it's a roller coaster, but it's unironically a roller coaster that lasts 45 minutes to an hour because it's the longest professional sports season we
yeah,
have. So
yeah,
it is a grind.
yeah, yeah. But at that age, the days you don't pitch sometimes are far harder than the days you do, because you pitch on Monday and you have a bad game, and you're talking about the best of the best. They don't generally have a lot of bad games under their belt. And then they go through a 2 or 3 start. We watched it with Dollander last year. He'd go 3 or 4 outings and he wouldn't get 15 total innings. And for guys like that, they've never done that before. And experiencing that in the big leagues is hard enough, much less every 5th day. So,
and following Paul Skeens.
yeah. Well, and like I said, I fear I put the over under, I think, at 500 or 600 innings in my mind for him before something physical. I hope I'm wrong, and I said it then. But I can't help but think that because the human body's just not built to do that, and he does it at a level nobody has ever done it before, and he's so good for the game. And he's a guy people buy tickets to watch. And you know, when that guy is on the Anaheim Angels or the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're 30 games out in June, he's still selling out stadiums or packing them in. When if he was in LA or if he was in New York, it would be prime time, you know, must see TV, can't miss. I mean, it already is, but it's just different when your team isn't contending. And I mentally I feel like Skeens is he's a strong kid. I say kid, but he's a man. I mean, he's a strong young man mentally, with a phenomenal work ethic. But you know, work ethic alone doesn't keep you healthy. And I think a lot of times it keeps you healthier than it might otherwise. But I just see Paul Skeens and I look at him and I think to myself, you know, if I'm this guy's pitching coach, he throws 200 innings, he strikes out 350 guys, and he does it at less than 120 pitches an outing because of just the little things there to be fixed and addressed. And we're talking about a guy with a sub-2 lifetime ERA. So, take that with the grain of salt I mean it with, but there's more to him than what he's already shown, and that's pretty amazing. So,
yeah, for a guy you've never gotten to see pitch in the October.
right.
So,
Right.
which I'm desperate
Right.
for.
I mean,
So please.
Can you imagine him in that Blue Jays Dodgers series last year?
Ugh. And it's like I don't want those guys to all have to be on the Dodgers for that to happen. I'd like to
Right.
see some
Right.
parity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you want me to go through the NL East this week, or
Yeah,
you got anything
let's talk.
else?
We last week we talked about, was it the AL East?
We did the WBC talk last week, but the week
Right. But
before
I
we
mean, we
went
talked
over.
didn't we hit a division?
Yeah, we've done the AL East so far. We're gonna
Right.
going through the next week, like I mentioned at
Yeah.
the top of the show. We got like 3
Talking about
weeks. So
subtractions and additions and stuff like that. So,
and World
yeah,
Series
let's hear it.
odds and what we think.
Yep.
So starting with the Atlanta Braves, who got rid of not too many people, Marcell Ozuna being the biggest name on that list, but they
Right.
added and re-signed quite a bit. We mentioned Chris Sale already. Robert Suarez in the bullpen. Ha-Seong Kim is a re-sign. Marcelo Dubon. There's at least 10 names on this list if I wanted to read all of them, but I'll leave it for you guys. But yeah, Alek Manoah and Marcell Ozuna would be the two bigger ones that I would say were off the subtractions. They're plus 1,600 right now for the World Series, 16-1. Next up would be Miami at plus 20,000. So not exactly a World Series hopeful, but in a rebuild period with some young, exciting guys. They have acquired Owen Casey, Pete Fairbanks, Esteri Ruiz, and notable subtractions, Edward Cabrera, Ryan Weathers. Not too much going on in Miami. Like I
Right.
said, plus 20,000. So might want to steer clear of that.
Well, I mean, think about this, and I find it hard to believe. They finished 4 games out last year
Yeah.
of a playoff spot.
Yeah. And that was all surrounding like getting rid of their former Cy Young winner too, and they held strong and they looked like they might have had a shot for a little bit, but
right,
the NL
right.
got so logjam at the end. Next up would be the Mets, who acquired a few free agents, and their notable acquisitions would include Bo Bichette, who we talked extensively about, including also Freddie Peralta, Marcus Semien, Devin Williams. A big offseason for the Mets, I'd
Well,
say.
if you remember, Christmas Eve, Met fans were about to jump off the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
All of the news out of the winter meetings was horrible. They lost 3 fan favorites. They lost their leading slugger. They lost their closer.
Pete Alonso, Edwin Diaz, Brandon
And then
Nimmo.
Nimmo.
Yeah.
Yeah. They turned it around. And I think when all is said and done, it's hard for a pitcher to have more impact than an everyday player in many ways because you're playing 155 games opposed to 35 starts. But I think for every win Bichette's going to bring that team, I think Peralta will do the same. I expect if I'd be very comfortable in any prop bet that has Devin Williams having a monster year. All of his underlying numbers last year were still insane. He's still getting swings and misses. He just had freaky luck. And when you're a closer, freaky luck can be a bad thing. I'll tell you what, the one dark horse here for me with them is Luis Robert Jr.
Yep, I had him on my list of names as well.
He has been that guy, he's almost like Kyle Pitts. Everybody
Or
drafts him.
what's the guy from the Brewers that they got from the White Sox? Andrew Vaughn.
Right. But everybody, this is the year. He had a monster year a couple years ago, and he was a 5-tool guy. He's had 2 horrible seasons. He could turn around and be the center of that lineup if he ends up finding his way. And that softens, if not eliminates, the Alonso loss. Semien, I don't know what to expect from him. But I
they
think
got Polanco as well from the Mariners.
Right. Who will probably play first base. And then, but I think the Williams thing, along with Luke Weaver, I think is going to be something that'll make them because remember what a nightmare that was last year. The epic class, but it was their bullpen was just Diaz out and all the things that went with that. But
yep. They tried to make moves. They moved on from Helsley, who was a trade deadline acquisition, to try and shore up their bullpen for a postseason push. But yeah, they
right.
clearly heard the complaints, and they've tried to address some things, made some big shifts.
They were off-season report card. They were an F on December 24th.
Yeah.
And now they're a B plus. But there a lot of things have to break right for that to be a B. And
I think the B is an appropriate tempered expectation after everyone penciled them into the NLCS last year.
Right.
So,
well, anytime you look at you're talking about a team and you follow every player acquired or every potential with, well, if, whereas the Dodgers, there are no ifs, I mean, and there are very few teams without a lot of ifs. Then the baseball schedule makes it that way too. So be curious to see.
Then we'll quickly go through the Nationals, the longest shot to win the World Series, 500-1. They added a few younger pieces, 5 pieces from their biggest subtraction, Mackenzie Gore. They also got rid of Josh Bell, just clearly in a rebuilding phase.
Yeah.
The Mackenzie Gore experiment doesn't seem to have worked out for them, not in their window. So they moved him on to Texas and acquired 5 players for him. So
yeah, with Gavin Fine, I'm not sure how you say that. They got 3 prospects, and they made an interesting move towards the end, grabbing Foster Griffin, who had a monster year in Japan last year. The name to watch in Washington this year, if you're a fantasy player, will be C.J. Abrams. They've got a lot of young, very talented players. They're playing in a nightmare division for a young, talented team. They're thin across the roster, but they're rebuilding. But C.J. Abrams will be the guy you'll want if you're the Nats, that's the guy at the deadline who you hopefully he's healthy, having a great year, because that's the guy that brings a monster return. And it started this winter with the Gore trade, though. I thought that they did as well as they could do. I didn't think he was going to bring as much as he brought, but that's what
It
happens
was
when you
time.
wait. Right. Right. So, yeah.
And last but not least, your Philadelphia Phillies. Plus 1,400, 14-1. Added Adolis Garcia, Brad Keller, Zach Pop. They re-signed Schwarber and Real Muto to keep that core in place. And they lost Ranger Suarez, Harrison Bader, Matt Strom, Jordan Romano, and David Robertson. Phillies look to be in a similar spot to last year. Would you say this is the last part of that window, or do you think they have 1 or 2 more
Yeah.
years? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
they're on this year, next year. They're on the back end. They're on the tail end. They're in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning of their run.
Yep.
And so, with this roster, the thing you look at is age. They're not ancient, but they're older. And, Schwarber being a DH kind of mitigates that. You can probably count on him for 150 games. I like that Dombrowski, I think, has got Harper coming into the season saying, you doubt me? Anytime
Yeah.
you get a Hall of Fame caliber player, it's hard sometimes. A lot of people don't understand that players of his caliber, you can't challenge him more than he already challenges himself, the expectations that he sets. But when you get a level of doubt in your capabilities, and you're that talented, you've been on Sports Illustrated since you were 16 years old,
As
you
as
find,
a Patriots fan, it's like, why would you ever give Belichick and Tom Brady more ammunition? Like, obviously they
yeah.
don't need it, but like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, but
Bryce
it's
Harper has
hard.
that
It's
attitude.
hard to find it's hard to create bulletin board material inside your own organization.
Yeah.
Dombrowski generated it, and he did it in a way he wasn't criticizing. He was just saying, "Hey, dude, the guy's a Hall of Fame level player, MVP guy. He didn't have an MVP year, but just give me something to lean on, and I'll make something out of it." So I expect him, if he's healthy, hopefully he stays healthy, I expect him to contend for another MVP this year.
I think in this part of the window, it's one of the harder, if not the hardest, the division's ever been, with the Mets coming off missing the playoffs, needing to have a good year. The Marlins, if they stay, to be a pain in the ass to play against, are going to be a
Yeah.
tough out through their end of the year. I think Atlanta will get healthy this year and be much more competitive than they were
There
last
are
year.
no patsies. I mean, the
Yeah.
Marlins are going to probably lose 90 games, but
The
I'll go back
Nationals, you
to
mean?
the old, the Nationals. But I go back to the old Terry's Francona saying, when you're a bad team, at least make them know that they played you tonight. And I think that the Marlins will be that club this year. You'll be able to get to them, but you'll have to pull teeth to win, and that makes it harder. So,
I mean,
uh,
you've done that or that East Coast trip, right? Like, you stop in Atlanta before you go to Miami most of the time, right? So
right,
you think that
right,
that's going to be the lesser series, and that's probably how they ended up scrapping out so many towards the late end of the year. People
yeah. I
thinking they
mean
were going to be an easy
yeah.
out.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot outside of the Dodgers. I think there's a ton of parity in baseball. I
Yeah,
think I think there are a lot of teams, a lot more teams than normal going into this season thinking that the playoffs are a possibility. With a work stoppage looming on the horizon, which breaks my heart, because I don't think there's any chance I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a game changer, literally a game changer this time.
I think we'll end up with 1 or 2 fun divisional races like we had last year, and the wild card will be a logjam. So
Yeah.
that's all I got, though.
No. Yep, me too.
All right,
What do
till
we got?
next week,
All right.
Dad, and then we got
Yep, hit
WBC
like,
action after that.
subscribe, guys. Keep us growing. We'll opening day draws near. Fantasy
Yep,
drafts getting ready. Maybe we'll
and we'll be
next week or
back.
two we'll hit some fantasy some
We'll be we'll,
fantasy discussion.
and
So,
we'll be back more frequent when all that kicks
yep,
up. So
yep.
till
All right,
then,
Bubba.
talk to you soon, Dad. Love you.
Yep, love you too. Take care, guys.